Hello, everybody. This is Linda Martin, and I'm here today with Dr. Fred Sherratt. Did I say that right? Dr. Fred. I'm trying to be English today. So we're going to talk about epistemology.
Mm-hmm.
What the? Forget about it. And I have it on good authority that Dr. Sherratt is very knowledgeable in this subject, or at least she likes to talk about it. So we're going to talk about it. But I want to say one thing a couple things. Happy birthday to your mom.
Yes. Oh gosh, she'll be pleased.
That's today, right?
Yeah.
Happy birthday to your mom. And I just wanted to tell you something. It's my mother's birthday today too.
We're twins. Oh my God.
We're
Who knew?
Probably not in the best way. But my mother turns 80 today.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's got a 0 on it. My mom was, I'm not going to tell you because she'll hate me.
Okay.
But it didn't have a 0 on the end.
It didn't. Okay. So 80, and happy birthday to both of our mothers. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about epistemology. Mm-hmm. What the forget about it.
Yeah.
Dr. Sherratt is going to introduce herself. Just give us the short version, because I think people are actually tuning in this time just to see you.
Oh. Excellent.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. Okay, guys. So I'm Fred Sherratt, which nobody can pronounce outside the northwest of England. So you're good, Linda. So I am currently interim deputy dean for research and innovation in the Faculty of Science and Engineering at Anglia Ruskin University in the UK. I agreed to talk to Linda about epistemology because I had quite a rough time of this back when I was researching construction in my own PhD. And it all got a little bit crazy. So what I thought I'd do, Linda, is kind of tell that story quite quickly, and we'll find out how I ended up in the mush of epistemological having to know shit. And then hopefully we'll do that. Will there be questions coming in as well? Because if people are there, do shout out and prod, and I'll try and run the chat.
Say hello to Dr. Sherratt. And
good job.
We got the comments going, and I made you this questions for Dr. Sherratt. Type them in the chat and say hello to us anyways, because it feels kind of lonely on this side. And please don't, like, you can swear, you can do whatever you want on this show, because it's my show and I make the rules, which is kind of frightening in a little bit of a respect. So please grace us with the story, because I think that it probably will resonate with
this is what I'm kind of hoping. So obviously hey Mike.
Hey, Michael.
And Phil. Philip's here as well. God, I'm going to be in so much trouble. Okay, so back in the day when I was still working as a site manager, so I was throwing 60, 70 hours a week onto a building site. And I was doing a part-time PhD in construction safety. Now, the reason this came about is because I was a little undergraduate and I was in my dissertation, and I made some comment about safety culture. And the guy that was doing my viva, he just went, right, you know what, Fred, safety culture, that's going to be your thesis. That's your PhD. And I was like, no way. Anyway, it all came to pass that I ended up doing my PhD. And I was so naive. I thought I was going to solve safety culture.
Oh, good. I've got about 5 students that think that.
Yeah, they think they're going to do that. Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. So here's me going to solve safety culture. And obviously I've come from a construction background. All my research work that I've done has been very positivistic, which is an epistemological position that we'll come back to in a bit. Okay. So a lot of my work, all my previous work was positivistic. My mum is a scientist. My mum's a zoologist. She is hard science. So I've kind of grown up in this sort of space. But I'm looking at culture. And I'm thinking this isn't quite making sense. So if I ask people with a questionnaire about culture, that doesn't actually resonate with me, because I know I kind of change my mind from day to day. We know we do. We're very, people are kind of weird. And this is where I started disappearing into a methodological exploration. Mm-hmm. So I kind of dove in to social science more broadly. I actually I got myself into an actual position where I was reading Plato. Which is about as far back as you can go, because where you want to go.
I would call that the rabbit hole. I would be get out of that rabbit hole.
It was a very deep deep rabbit hole this. So if we're going back to Plato and his cave and his representations of reality, you've gone right back to the root. You don't have to do that. Anybody on here that's trying to do a thesis, don't panic. But what I then found was I found an epistemological position, that really resonated with me, and it was very different. It was I would claim to be a social constructionist. So in my world, there is no real world. Everything is created through interactions, and we construct different things depending where we are, who we're with. Everything is in flux, right? Mm-hmm. Now, that's not a very happy place for scientists because they want to know facts. And here I was in this space going, oh, shit. But you know what? That worked for me. And the reason it worked for me, Linda, this is kind of weird, because when I left school, I was quite an interesting character. Going to uni,
you used to be. I can't believe it.
I know, weird, huh? So going to uni straight for me would have been a bad idea. Okay. So I got a temp job, bummed about for a bit, but I got a job as a temp. Now I loved being a temp because 18-year-old Fred was there going, who am I going to be this week? I could be preppy Fred, or I could be super helpful Fred, or I could be rocker Fred, or I could be turning up in my old Thrasher top Fred. Who am I going to be this week? And I realized you can create all these different yous. And of course, we know we have these. So at work, we have a different version of ourselves than the one that we present if we go to the pub with friends. There's a different you that speaks to your family, and it's a different you that goes to the shop. We create these different versions, and that kind of resonated with me. And I thought, you know what? That is how the world works. We create different things every time we interact and get involved. Now, what this isn't helpful for is in terms of scientific epistemologies, that creates a space where we can't actually pin anything down. So where I got to with safety, and obviously, if you're interested, I can obviously share papers and work on this. But what we can do, so my thesis, and this is going to be a nightmare. And for anyone that's doing a literature review, you know this is the case. My thesis was titled "The Social Construction of Safety on Large UK Construction Sites." So I have the word safety twice, meaning two different things in the same sentence. Yeah, so when you are trying to research social construction of construction, the search engines get a bit confused. So yours
comes up first, right?
If you get that many hits of it. But this was kind of a strange space I found myself in, where but what I wasn't able to do was to say, do you know what? This is safety culture. Because it doesn't exist in that form, and I'll start prodding into these different epistemological positions. I've 1 second, Linda. I'm so sorry. My cat is flipping out at the door. Something exciting's happening in the garden, and he really, really needs to go.
This is awesome. My dogs are barking, and Fred's cat is flipping out, and she's just left the room for a second. But we're in the middle of a discussion about epistemology, and I'm here. The reason I had Fred on is because I have just as many, I think, tattoos. This is a new one, by the way.
Oh, very nice. I like that.
It's animals dancing. It's from my kid's favorite children's book called The Bear Snores On.
The Bear Snores On. I love it. I've never heard of this. Worth reading, I guess, though.
Yeah. Somebody just said, let's have a private chat. We are having a private chat. This is my show. I can have a private chat if I want. So Fred, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, right. So what my thesis actually ended up doing was looking at how people construct ideas around safety in their work on site. And I looked at a number of different data sources. So I spoke to people. And the thing is that we often talk about bias. Mm-hmm. We often talk about trying to remove the researcher from the research. But when you're in a social constructionist space and you're interacting and you know that interaction is meaningful, I can't take myself out of it. Right. So I need to include myself in what I do. So you need to start being what's known as very reflexive. You need to acknowledge that. But the thing for me was I had by this point, 8 years on site. I could speak the language. I was one of them. So that helped. And that actually can enhance research in certain situations. So whereby with a positivistic epistemology, we've been trying to peel all this bias and influence out of it. What it can actually do is enhance things when we're in a space where we need an interpreter. somebody with what's known as an emic perspective to take the inside and explain it further rather than just objectively peering in. So I was talking to people and I analysed that talk data. I mean, you do that in a really laborious way. You have to look at all the pauses and the influences and the gaps and the emphasis and the associations. And I'll come on to why in a minute. I also looked at documentary data, so all the safety documents. And I also looked at all the signage and the way we communicate in that way. What are we constructing? What are we positioning as important? And what does that tell us about safety within this site space? And there were a number of things that came up. The constant work versus safety, safety versus work, your safety struggle, Linda. This is, I mean, that is not unknown. But what it was doing was revealing like more nuance about how we often think that safety hinders work. But the guys on site were also going, yeah, but you know, our work really gets in the way of safety. Now, that's a perspective that you wouldn't necessarily have got just going in at it, looking at that relationship as a dualism, because the way they were repositioning work as negatively influencing their safety because they couldn't do safety, that's slightly different. And that gives people in management a thought, well, hang on a minute, are we imposing? So you can see this does have utility. Even this random fluffy shit, we can start thinking, well, are we actually putting people to work in a way that just has a massive clash with the safety systems in play? And this is just never going to happen. Right. I mean, some of the other things that came up are that we talk about safety in language of enforcement, but then we tie that in through this idea of engagement, where we're trying to get our workforce involved. But are we just clothing these rules of enforcement with this lovely, fluffy language of engagement and thus rendering the whole thing pretty crap because people know they don't have agency. They know they can't get involved in their own safety. So there's loads of different things that sort of snuck out of this. The other thing is that most people, the idea, if you say safety and construction, PPE. That's it. That's all we ever do, right, dude? That's it.
Well, now it's hand washing and hand washing.
I know. But PPE, and I know the irony is PPE is like the most visible thing because it's the most visible thing because it's supposed to be.
Right. Exactly.
But what this does is again can distract from far more serious processes, and this and we kind of can start seeing fit. These stories are starting to say, hang on, how many times have we seen somebody shout at somebody, say, where's your hard hat? And the dude stood like above a 10-meter drop with no edge protection. It's like, you know what, I'm not going to worry about your head. Because if you fall off that, the hard hat's
you don't need that hard hat
anyway, right? So that's kind of curious. So there are different ways of doing things, but the thing that I find really interesting with this is that I know we've got people from all over the world on here, but certainly in the US, I found you guys really, really love your positivistic position. You love your science. You love your facts.
Well, yes, I think some people do, but I think at least the practitioner level, and this is just my opinion, for everybody that's going to bash me for this, I think on the practitioner level, and this goes to your epistemology, right? The theory of knowledge, is that we love to say all that happy, fluffy shit, like you say. And we like to, if I say it 10 times, it becomes real. And there isn't a lot of fact behind it, right? And so we have a lot of people trotting around, writing in the People magazines of our profession and saying, oh hop and oh this and oh that, but there's really, it's injected. This is my knowledge. This is my experience. This is my thought, and I'm going to inject it in there and make it fact, which is not knowledge. It's not knowledge, right? And so I see that a lot. I don't see that a lot on the academic side of things because I think we do want facts. I mean, that's one thing that irks me is like, stop telling me all that shit about safety culture when you've never read a proper article in your life, right? So, I mean, I guess I would agree with you in some respects, but I think on a practitioner level, there's no idea what's knowledge and what's not.
Okay. So this jumps back to what we were talking about when Mike was on with me and we were looking at validity and good research. Now, the interesting thing here, Linda, and you're quite right. So, and no, that is a really good point, because people are coming out with kind of opinions and things. The method I've mentioned has its own rules. It is a rigorous research approach. People in social sciences and in particularly education, healthcare, use these methods a lot, and they have validated benchmarks. But the thing that creates a bit of trouble is they're not the same ones we might be used to. So, for example, if you're doing a questionnaire, and there is a place for questionnaires, I don't think it's around safety. Quite. It's not. It's a rare place.
Yeah.
If you can, I think I've done one once in my entire career.
Unspeakable.
But with that, we are able to develop a tool that can be validated. And I don't mean bloody Chrome Batches Alpha. We actually have something that we can use, and if we've used this validated tool that's been done properly, then yeah, we can claim fact. But when we start doing that on safety, the problem comes in that these rules around fact and positivistic research are the ones that Newton gave us. These have that dude has something to answer for, because the way we can look at steel beams and cement and structures, there are laws, there are rules. As soon as you put a person anywhere near that, woo, out the window, right? Because people are brilliant. People are awkward, annoying, grumpy, cross. They get up in a bad mood. I've been in a really good mood today. Can't tell you why.
I can tell. It's your mom's birthday.
Well, there is that. Bless her. And she did, I got her dinosaur cookies. So they were really cool. So I told you, scientist. So what we I've completely, so I got distracted by cookies. Look at that. In a really good mood. So you can either wake up in a mood that is positive towards safety, or you get up in a mood that's like, I'm just not going to get on with this today. And what I struggle with is epistemological approaches to research in safety that do not allow for this flux, that do not allow for this mess, frankly.
Yeah.
And
they must.
Is a good word.
Must.
Yeah. So
intuitively they must.
Because the world is messy. We can't, if we actually think about that, we know that really. People are messy. People are inconsistent. They are unhelpful. They don't do what they're supposed to. But methodologically, we need ways of looking at this. So to go with a positivistic approach, which is the one that sits on the ontological, sorry to bring another word in.
Oh, I love ontological.
Realism. So there is a real world out there. Here it is. And we can measure it and we can test it, and people will follow these rules. So that's one perspective. But then the alternative right at the other end is where I'm most comfortable sitting, which is actually there could be a real world out there, but we've no way of doing this. And this is also, I ought to be honest with you and pin this back to something in philosophy called the linguistic turn. So this was where we realized that I know what daffodil means to me. It's because I'm looking at some. I have some here. They're very cute. Yep. Daffodil means to me, but I don't know that you know that your daffodil is the same as my daffodil.
Right.
We have no way of doing that because all we have to go on is words.
Right.
So the meaning of those words, we can't actually check or validate because human brains don't work like that. We can't do that. So what we have to do instead is just look at the words that we are using. So we're not applying meaning. We're not explaining for anybody. All we are doing is telling the stories of how it is through the ways and how people talk to each other around a certain phenomenon such as safety. So what we are getting is a situation where we can see what people prioritize, what they devalue, simply because we're not saying, oh, they mean that, because we can't take that knowledge because that's theirs and we will never be able to know it. And what this does is it acknowledges the mess. It gives us something to work with where we're not taking leaps into truths that may not be. And instead, we are able to say, this is kind of how things are. Does this find fit with you? Does this resonate? And that's the only sort of check we can do. We can be very rigorous in what we do. All the analysis for this kind of work is really, really open. So it's not like someone does a questionnaire and then hides everything and here's your p-value. It's actually, you tell the story, you bring the evidence in, you have to be really quite creative. And what you're doing is creating a piece of work on a situated space. But for construction specifically, which is obviously my favorite place in the whole world, for construction, we're okay with this because most construction sites, it's the same bunch of people. They just move around. I mean, I worked on sites in Manchester for 10 years. Same bricklayer all the time. But he worked for a totally different firm. But I've built things with the same bunch of guys for years, even though we all regrouped every different project. So you kind of get this community, and that's what creates culture.
Right.
And that's where your safety culture is, in amongst all these weird constructions, reconstructions, different interactions between people through their physical bodily engagements, their talk, their signs, their written words. And that's the mess that we then find as safety practitioners that we need to deal with. So I'm always encouraging of taking epistemological positions that support mess, if that helps.
I don't know who it helps. It helps me. I mean, I love hearing the thought behind this. One thing that really came to mind as you were talking about, like, this is what a tulip means to you, right? But you can never experience what a tulip means to me, how I see it, how I feel it, how I smell it, how any of those things. And if we could, all the therapists would be out of business because we would, or not even that, if we could, but if we as people recognized that we cannot do that, have the same valid experience that matches and understand each other in that way, then half of the therapists would be out of business. What say you on that? You follow me? Because I think one of the things we do is we always speak for other people's experience as if it is our own, right? I see, I know, therefore you know, and you're seeing the same thing that I am. And that's a fundamental thing in safety, right? Where if everybody could acknowledge everybody else's experience, we probably would be seeing more hazards, more things from a different perspective. And I don't want to pull out zero harm, but those people that want to approach zero harm, right? They would get closer.
I would think so.
They may not get there, but they would get closer because people would be seeing or allowing other people to have their experience and add it to the collective body of knowledge so that we become smarter, faster, stronger, more intuitive when it comes to our processes. Does that make sense?
I think so.
It didn't make any sense to me, but
I think it's it also talks to the reason why questionnaires are rubbish, because how can we know that we understand the same question the same way ever? Yeah. I've got Philip has brought in semiotics here, and I think at 7:30 at night, I don't think I can quite deal. So I'm not denying this. He is. Philip has brought in the difference between the signifier and what is signified, and yes. Why does that keep popping? Is that you popping?
I'm popping it up.
Oh, right, good. I thought that was. Philip
I thought you were reading
shouting at me from Belfast.
Wait, I'll click it on.
Which he has been known to do.
Yeah. All right.
I love him, dear.
We'll have to have him on too.
Oh no. Philip, I did not start it. I think you should invite Philip on for a semiotic discussion around this, because he is also very. Yeah. There you go. I'm not gonna play
Consider
with
yourself.
This. I'm gonna say him. Yeah, I'm gonna stay in my space of Wittgenstein's linguistic turn. Cassandra, that's a good point.
It is, right?
So what I think we can take from epistemology here is this understanding that our knowledge, it cannot just be the one thing. We need as people to appreciate more the benefits of collective understand, to take it into a practical space, that these different perspectives matter, and we can't make these assumptions or things around things like hazard perception or what we mean by things. And it is a really interesting thing that I think we can learn as a discipline, because I mean, for example, the journal is called Safety Science. And if you've played about in safety science, it's not scientific from a science definition, because you have some great people in there talking about constructionist approaches to safety, about all these other really kind of interesting ways of unpicking things that can actually contribute. Yeah. So I think, but what's important is that what this doesn't do is it's not a license to do anything. It's not a license for those people who just bring their opinion and that's the end of the day. There is rigorous research that is done through these approaches that brings together these collective experiences in a way that is then shared with practice, shared with the people themselves. Of course, it should be, to say, is this telling our story properly? Is this what we kind of make sense of? So that's, I mean, sense making is a whole other approach.
It's a whole other show. I love this.
Do you know how many shows you could have, Linda, if you take the lid off this tin properly? It's and the thing to notice as well, obviously, is this isn't a done deal.
Right.
This is perpetually evolving. We are seeing there's currently a big fight happening, I think, around things like socio-materiality, which is a theory about how the material and the social actually come together and into it's got a proper word that again has fallen out of my head. It's assemblage is the way they build together, but then also entangle. That's the word I'm looking for. Okay. So there are this sort of conversation is happening all the time. It's not a space I particularly get very paddle in a lot, because I'm more concerned with practice and actually doing something useful. And I've kind of championed alternative epistemological positions where they have value. So I wouldn't do it for the sake of doing it. It has to be done in a way involving the right people. So when I did my research, I was literally just wandering around chatting to guys on the tools, to the supervisor while they're in a brew, things like that. I was talking to the people whose hands were dirty, who were getting on with it.
Right. You weren't in the executive suite talking to the executive managers about what kind of culture they want.
Do I look like they'd ever let me in an executive suite?
Well, there's that too. Probably as their administrative preppy.
Yeah,
preppy
I
Fred,
could make the tea, maybe. Oh yeah, preppy Fred, she'd get in there.
Preppy Fred would get in to make the tea, but you're not in the executive office asking them what kind of culture they want. You're on the job site, finding out what the culture is.
Yes.
Right. And then you can't act upon the culture until you know what the culture is, right?
And what people highlight as important as not, because I actually think a lot of senior people would be quite surprised as how positive a safety space their workplaces are, because people aren't daft. Most people know when they're doing something stupid. You do. The fact that they do it anyway is a whole other thing. I mean, I am one of the worst people in the world for this. If I had a quid for every time my husband had said, get away from that edge, I'd probably, I could go out and get nicely drunk. So it's important. But I know that that's me. And I know loads of construction people who do it because it's far more exciting than sitting behind a desk. But they're also, they know what they're doing, why, how. And things do go wrong. But we need to make sure from an occupational perspective that that's actually something that was not foreseeable, not dealable with, because the guys that are actually doing the work usually are aware. For example, in that narrative that appeared, safety versus work, that's the traditional safety things are getting in the way of production. But then you find it almost immediately alongside that the guys are also saying, but the way you make me do this work is really not helpful for safety. So they know they need to rethink something properly. Right. And I'm not going to give the zero thing away because there's a whole really cool bit.
Don't give the zero thing away.
Just tune in next time for that.
Yeah, March 3rd at 2 p.m. I think it's 2 p.m., right?
Yeah.
We're going to be having a zero harm discussion with Dr. Sherratt.
Yeah.
And Siernan. Is that how I say it? Saren? Karen. I'm sorry.
Karen.
I'm sorry. Karen McAleenan.
Karen McAleenan.
Karen McAleenan. and Dr. Fred Sherratt.
Yes,
they're going to do a zero harm debate on March 3rd. So yes, don't give that away. So I have a question for you, because this goes to kind of culture, right?
Yeah.
And I just also want to, can I give away that the little secret we have between us about you and Capital Tech?
Yes.
Can I give that away?
Yes, you may.
Dr. Sherratt is going to be an available advisor, dissertation chair for select people at Capital Technology University. I'm delighted. And every time somebody mentions culture, I'm going to send them to her. So if you want her for your chair, all you have to say is culture, and I'm going to say ick, and the next call you'll get is from her. But I want to mention this thing because this is a conversation that came up with somebody who was interested in the program, and he was talking about how the culture of safety has changed on construction sites, at least here in the U.S. And because of the pandemic. And that the pandemic has brought to the forefront like this whole other, like kind of like a hard reset, especially in the construction industry. And this is just his observation, that now at the forefront of everybody's mind when they come onto the site every day is this whole thought of temperature, hand washing stations. And so they think about it every day because nobody wants to get sick, right? Nobody wants to get sick.
You don't get paid.
It's going to affect their pay. It's going to affect the site. It's going to affect everything. Right. But he said that what it's doing is it's kind of stripping down to that base level, using COVID as the actor in this case, to people are knowledgeable now about safety. I would say everybody around the world now knows about the hierarchy of controls. Right. And so, is this a time when culture can be acted upon in a positive way that we can make great strides in safety programs and safety culture because people have that, instead of all being stratified on where we sit on safety, we've now been pushed into this narrow band. Does that make sense? Because he brought this up and I was like, oh, I never thought about that.
I think it's helped a lot in a number of different ways. So here in the UK, I think the biggest one is the distancing, because what that did was it forced everyone to plan the work properly so everyone wasn't squashed up. And you know what? I don't think it negatively affected productivity because people were forced to plan properly to keep the numbers down. So there was actually room to move. And I'm going to share a really rigorous piece of research with you that my next door neighbour is a window fitter. And he had the best time because he wasn't fighting bricklayers on the scaffolding. He just got there, did his work and went away. And he was impressed with the safety controls that were in place, far better than they were. And but I fear that we might not be able to crystallize this. We need to peg it down. And I think it would be very good to see from the workforce. People need to say, do you know what? We did this because we're in a pandemic and everybody kind of was prioritizing this. We need to keep that going.
Right.
But the problem I fear, and it's already kind of creeping back in the UK, although we're like this with waves at the moment, is when we go back to business as usual, it will be business as usual. And it would be such a shame to lose that because people have got more mindful. I mean, even just hand washing, dermatitis issues, vials disease. There is no bad thing washing your hands quite a lot when you work on a building site, right?
Right.
This isn't a bad thing. So let's keep it going. Let's keep the provision of things going to enable that to happen. So people are able to keep making this culture change. And I don't disagree, Linda. I think it has made a big positive difference. Now everyone knows what PPE stands for, which they didn't before. So I find that very helpful.
Right. But they also know what the other controls are, right?
Well, I don't think I've seen that in the UK. I'm impressed if that's happened. I mean, maybe that passed me by. I know everyone is now obsessed with PPE.
And distance, so the social distancing aspect. So I had another thought, and my thoughts kind of come at me fast and furious, and you can tell me I'm full of shit about this. I started to think about about this, right? As you were saying, okay, so now they're spreading out and the work's spreading out and the planning's getting better and the scheduling's getting better and all these things. But isn't that the same thing that building information modeling can do if we use it correctly?
Ooh. Yeah. Now, like Linda, you've just found my other thing. Oh. Which is technology.
That sounds dirty.
I know. Did you like the way I did that? I'm here all week, folks. Right. Technology.
Okay.
It's my other thing. Okay. And it's not a thing I'm very fond of.
It's not? No. Okay. All right. So you can use culture, but I'll be the opposite of that debate. And I will say, okay, if those are all the things that this change brings to the table, the pandemic brings to the table, and we can change culture, right? Can we not? Well, I guess you do need the culture piece, right? Because you can have the technology piece, but if the people don't accept it and they don't, it doesn't become another actor in that stage play, then technology is going to be useless. But I would think, when you get into the 4D, 5D, 6D modeling, and you've got planning, scheduling, costing, everything in there, if people work together, would it not have the same effect? But then I guess it's culture, right?
So it should. It should. Okay. Okay. Will it? Okay. Now, I come at that from a number of points. Firstly, I think I'm not sure who's driving Construction 4.0, our digital revolution, because as far as I think it's being driven by people who do not build. I think it's driven by people who build software. Yeah, and we find ourselves then shaped to that software. So that is interesting. I had a great to-do with somebody at a conference because they were showing me their BIM for safety model, and it was great. And what they had was this massive roof, and then they pressed a button and said, and there's the edge protection. And I said, woohoo, look at that on your fancy model. How did it get there? And you know what? They couldn't answer. Yeah. This was a conference where someone is showing me how BIM is going to improve safety. Yeah. And they couldn't explain to me how the BIM model was going to help the poor scaffolder that had to go out to that leading edge to fit that edge protection. Right. Now, that's where people are getting that just didn't work out.
So are they separate or are they together? Because here's, my understanding of that use of that technology is you can't just say it's BIM for safety. You can't, right? Because it's it's BIM for everything. It's as it builds, it shows you all the different for safety, for cost, for scheduling, for measuring, for right. And so BIM for safety that's not even a thing.
They're trying to make it a thing. Oh no, I think you could upset some people by saying that's not a thing.
Well, I mean, it's a piece of a thing.
Yes, it is. It's a bit of a thing.
It's a bit of a thing, but it's not. It's not the thing.
No. So it should help in that regard, but will it? I don't know. I'm intrigued. So there is a thing called computer-controlled craftsmanship now. Okay. Now, to me, the people that are doing that, I'm not sure they could lay a course of brick without it going wonky. So it's again, but I worry that what we will end up with is something not dissimilar to the performance gap, which is when we have our architects design our buildings so that they're very incredibly sustainable. So we have air seals and we've got massive problems with this in the UK now around fire stopping. Yeah, we've lots of our buildings, the fire stopping is inadequate. But in part, I feel this is due to the fact that something can be drawn easily on 2D drawing or in a 3D model, but you try making that happen in real life. And as someone that's had to do a lot of fire stopping work, it's not pretty, it's not neat, it's not the same as drawing a line across a drawing. Right. You have to really wiggle into space. It doesn't flow out like that. So the thing that worries me most about it is this disconnect between, yes, this is the model and it all looks like this and it's all flash and wonderful. Constructions now happens in Google offices and people go down slides while they're doing it and all this sort of shit. But actually, unless we make that link into significant changes in technology. And I'm not sure that I would agree with that, because I think construction work is good work, and we shouldn't dismiss it as a job, which is another point around technology. So I think it's a blooming craft skill, isn't it? It's an artist. And then, but what will happen is that we'll end up with a situation where BIM is saying this can be done in this period of time, but it actually can't. But the problem is the people who design the BIM software, and notice that's different from the people that are using it who design the buildings. But the people who design the software will have designed that in a way that suits the software, not necessarily the builder on the site.
Yeah.
And then that design has to go through the software to be designed to create this space. And then it gets to the dude on site who's like,
you might as well just talk to the dude on site.
Exactly. Well, I know, it's mad, isn't it? So I think
Michael's chiming in here, by the way.
I know. What is he saying? Include work. Yeah.
Use in the decision making of the technological.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess the question is are you including the right workers on the sharp end of the decision making of the technology, right? Because as you say, the person doing the software is doing what suits the software.
Yes.
And they're probably talking to 1 or 2 experts, because it's too expensive to talk to 10, right? Or 20 or 30 decision makers. And so then you get that, again, the narrow band of knowledge, which is not enough to encompass all of the possible iterations. It
worries me. And the kind of the homogenization of this. I mean, it's all Autodesk.
Yeah.
All of it. All of it.
It's just a different name on it. Is that what you're saying?
Nothing. I didn't say a word.
Okay.
So that's, I mean, that in itself is quite interesting. There's a journal. In fact, I'm going to shout it out because Philip's on the call and he's in it as well. I did a special issue of the Institute of Civil Engineers Proceedings of Management, Procurement and Law. And it's a special issue called The Ethical and Social Challenges of Construction 4.0. And I get angry in it about workers and technology and stuff.
Is it already out?
Yeah.
Oh, may we share that?
Of course, I will email you the link. I think it's behind a paywall, but Philip has a piece in it about AI.
Awesome.
So construction.
I would like a copy of that, and I'll actually put it in the chat notes when this runs on LinkedIn.
I'll send you a thingy.
So Michael, I agree with you. If you're designing a smartphone, why talk? You talk to 2 or 3 more people. Why not on a construction project? I think you would on a construction project, right? Because that's what.
Yeah, it's the software.
Let me point this way. That's what Fred is talking about. But when you're designing software, I don't know if I'm pointing the right way. I am on my screen. But when you're designing software, somebody has to make a decision about how many people you're going to consult. And they might go to Michael for sustainability and prevention through design, but they're not going to hire 3 Michaels, because I think Michael's probably expensive. Aren't you, Michael?
I think he's about 25p an hour.
But I mean, I guess that's what I'm saying is, so then you get kind of the one size fits all, when a construction site is not ever one size fits all.
No, never, ever, ever.
Never, ever. Right. And back to your point about, when you did your research, you saw these people over and over again on project to project, to different project, and you became kind of a semi-cohesive group, right? If you add more people, or you add different people or new people, then that dynamic changes. You don't have the same culture, because somebody might throw off the balance.
Yeah, they do very much. And different site managers can, it's all very kind of fluid. It's in flux. It always is. And that's why measuring it with a questionnaire or some kind of scientific tool is not going to work. Because it's always different. Because you can walk on a site, right? You walk in somewhere, if how safe a place is within 2 minutes. I know you know that. You can just tell, right? You can tell, and you can tell.
Yeah. So let's. Yes, true. Right. Yeah. I mean, you can kind of.
But how do we quantify that or measure it? It's not a thing to measure. And we keep trying to measure things that maybe we shouldn't be trying to measure.
Well, there's a measure for everything. right? Measure. Yeah. But I think we miss the human aspect of doing the work.
Yes.
As you were kind of alluding to earlier, actually saying outright, what makes a successful safety manager or safety professional in that situation is that you are embedded.
Yes, you've got to get out in amongst it, otherwise you're worth nothing.
You must, and people talk about this, oh, well, you got to get out of your truck and blah. No, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is being human, right? That being someone that goes and has a beer, or maybe you don't drink beer, or maybe somebody who is willing to shoot the shit and take a couple minutes out of the work to talk about their day, or so that everybody is kind of on the same page, and it's not me against you, it's not you against me, it's not that trade against that trade. It's just like we're just all trying to get this done. So how do we as a group figure it out?
It's right? and the silly management term is, of course, emotional intelligence, which makes it sound creepy and weird. When actually, do you know what it is? It's called liking people, getting on with folks, just enjoying banter.
Yeah.
And I absolutely 10 years plus on site. I loved it. I loved every day walking around, checking out who was going on, seeing what happened. I knew more. I could tell you exactly where everyone was in the English Premier Football League. I can't do that now. I used to have to watch Match of Day on a Saturday night so I could talk football all week.
So I miss that.
That's important.
Yeah.
I
miss that because I'm not driving around, getting out of my truck and talking to people. And I, honestly, in the safety realm, and I guess this is going to be blasphemy, but in the safety realm, I spent more time talking to people about non-safety stuff and being more effective about safety stuff because I did.
Totally.
And that people make me happy. So we've run the gamut here. We're way off epistemology.
I'm going to pull back on that in the last second.
I think we're way off the epistemology track now, but and I just lost my train of thought. That's what happens when you're
No, we're talking about the human social side of it, and the fact that safety is not just about rules, and it doesn't work in a mechanistic way, which is what a positive epistemology would direct you to approach it in. It is about who won on Saturday. Did you see the game? Yeah. Oh, shame, you guys got lost. Things like that. That's what makes a space where people are confident to have and express their shared understandings, to work with each other, to call each other out when they think something's wrong.
Right.
You need that kind of vibe.
So let me throw this out there. So emotional intelligence, because I do believe that that's what that is, right? That's actually liking people, as you say. I don't know if I should say this or if I'm going to get beaten over the head, but you can't teach that to people.
Oh, no, I completely agree with you there.
Okay. So we agree on that. You can't teach that to people. So, but so here's where I think some of our academic system goes wrong is we do a lot of this technical talk, technical, right? We're in our undergraduate studies and we're teaching all about confined spaces and electrical hazards and all these kind of things, but we're not bringing out those qualities in the people so that when they exit school and they go to the field, that they know how to live in this world. Because some people are parented that way, some people are innately that way, but you can't, and this is again just my opinion, you can't be in this profession if you don't have that trait. You lose something in the translation if you don't have even you got to have a shred of that. You got to have a shred of emotional intelligence. You've got to like people. If you don't like people and you don't want them to die, that you know what I mean? What? It's a disconnect there, right?
I could not agree with you more. So this is quite curious that so I used to run construction management undergraduate course, and I was never convinced I could teach management. Certainly, I used to walk into the leadership stuff going, I really can't teach this. You can either do it or you can't, and I'm just going to explain it a bit. Yeah. And this is what
it is like in a perfect world.
With the learning outcomes and everything, and me going, nah, if you can't do this, you can't.
And in conclusion.
So I think these are the things that we don't get. I mean, Billy's put up a quote here about people actually getting out in amongst it. It takes a certain sort of person, and this is why sort of the diversity of people in the world is awesome, because we can all find, hopefully, she says, hopefully, we can all find a space we're happy in.
Yeah.
And there are so many jobs that I really couldn't do, like any involving like responsibility or proper line management or something like that. Like, can you imagine
you're in academia, right? Because that's like no responsibility whatsoever. Just like
I found my home. I found my happy place. But it's like utterly and you people, and I think that is something that needs to be acknowledged, that it is something that you can work on, and it does kind of fit to this epistemological position where you have to be okay with things being messy. You have to be okay with things being in flux, because if you're not going to be a really, really good kind of people-y person that's able to spot when somebody shouldn't be sent up on that roof because they're not okay,
or they're not having a good day, or
exactly. So and I think that kind of thing, the fact that we need certainly the crews on site, the people on site, to be able to also notice that, for example, that something's going wrong. This isn't the day for you to sort of, I mean, I know people that have had accidents simply and the reason for it was honest. They actually said, my head wasn't in the right place. I should never have started this job. I should have stayed home. And they know it. Of course they do. This is the other thing, is this kind of weird idea that, and people do know, and but they need to be in a place where they're able to say that.
Safe. Yeah.
And a place where you have the confidence and the support and that culture that's okay. And you can do that.
You're saying culture, and every time you say culture, I just kind of go,
I know, but it's not that bad, because culture becomes bad when you've got it in a positivistic jar, when we try and do it really mechanistically and force it. So first off, we do our safety culture survey. What's that telling us? Because nobody actually can understand that the questions mean the same to all the people. If you start throwing a Likert scale in there, and that screws everything up even further, because my strongly agree could be your meh. So we've got all these kind of things that don't help. And
I'm
then
going to put that in a Likert scale, meh.
Isn't
there like an emoji that goes with that?
You're not supposed to have it. You see, I never put a middle column in my Likert to avoid the meh. In the one
one with just emojis.
Well, why not? It might as well. it's as valid. And then what we try and do with our positivistic culture is we try and we implement it. How on earth were we ever thinking that could happen? And we have to have our leading indicator monitoring, and then we're going to do stand downs, and then we're going to say all that fluffy shit that you mentioned that we can just pull out the bag. And then we wonder why
you missed going to the seminar on emotional intelligence, so that you could come back and exercise emotional intelligence.
Quite, and that's where it goes wrong. But if we actually step out of that epistemological constraint, that framework that's telling us that we can only go for fact and we can't use any emic insights or understandings, or we have to try and eliminate all bias by talking to people in ways that people don't really want to talk. I mean, in social constructionism, you don't even have formal interviews. And when I did my zero work, I pretty much walked around and went, that zero safety thing, huh? And just let people talk, because that is the way that you find out what they're really on about and things like that. Now, this is interesting, Philip. Everyone is part of. So the other thing, I said that I had two things. I have a third thing. And my third thing is a great desire, because construction should be the most cooperative thing humans do, because we all need everyone else to do their bit to work together. And what do? We turn it into a legal fractious nightmare where everyone's having a scrap.
Oh no. Yes, but then we push all of the risk down as far as we can get it away from us, right? And that's really good. That's super good for teamwork.
So awesome. Construction is an industry designed to fail on this front. It really, 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 really is. And I have a little project going at the minute where I am determined, right? Listen to this, Linda, if you think I'm crazy. I am determined to build something in a cooperative way where the people who get their hands dirty come together It may have a digital platform. I'm working with myself on that. And come together in a cooperative way. They build the project. They're all reliant on each other. They get a fair wage while they're building it, and they all get a share of the profit. And you do not need a main contractor anymore to harvest all the money out of it, to squeeze the people down the supply chains.
So we've just lost half our audience when you said that.
Did I?
No, I'm just kidding.
Probably.
All the GCs are like, this woman is full of shit.
Yeah, come at me, bro. I mean, it's not like, but exactly. But I mean, I'm joking there because, and I'm talking small project. I'm talking like a single house, perhaps, where we need, and there are loads of small projects of that size that main contractors won't touch because there's no return on investment. But a bunch of local tradespeople could actually produce an asset for that community. And then we could do that. And there are various charitable ways you can do it. So it's not about throw something up and make money out of it quick. So anyway, that's my
that
other
sounds
thing.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's my other part-time thing that I refuse to not do that. I refuse to not do that at some point in my life. But we'll see.
That's an amazing idea.
Where we go with that. I'm currently looking for funding.
Currently looking for funding.
Nobody will fund it, Linda. I've been trying to do this for like 5 years, and I cannot get funding.
Well, so everybody that's out there
doesn't involve any profit.
Yeah, everybody that's out there that's looking at the culture type of piece. If you want to fund Fred, I know how to get a hold of her. I actually has her cell phone digits now. So I can actually get a hold of her when she's careening into a live stream on two wheels. So.
I love it. Oh, see, Ashley's in. There is appetite for this, and the thing that would be great would be when you did it, you would be able to empirically get in amongst it and explore it with the guys as they were building it. What changes did this make to quality, to productivity, to planning, to the actual construction innovation that really happens, which is site innovation, by the way. They can make all the flash software shit they want. It doesn't actually get shit built. But there are loads of things like that. Yeah, Philip, I know there's Billy, you can't say that. There are in Argentina and Spain, and there is one in Canada. So these things exist. So they do. There is one up in Canada actually that's not a million miles away from my idea, but we'll see where we get to. Billy, I thought we'd agreed left and right didn't matter anymore. It's the have and have not. We've been having a political debate as well. Oh God, yeah, I'm not even going there.
Oh, another. Well, no, we won't do a political debate. Then we'll lose all the listeners. I try to keep it somewhat balanced, right? So we'll keep that in mind. But I mean, I'm kind of with Ashley. I think it sounds like a wonderful idea, and I can't imagine that you wouldn't be able to get funding for that.
I need to find the right rich person. I think I'm not going to get it through. I'm not going to get that through
an academic funding.
Well, all the UK funding in academia, by the way, at the moment is linked straight to industry. And because this is not an industry agenda item, so it's not about mega projects and, oh God, everything's about sexy mega. As if, how many mega projects do you think we can hold in the UK? It's tiny. It's about this big, the UK, compared to America. So where we're going to put all these mega projects, I have no idea. We haven't got any money either, obviously. So it's either about that or digital or about modern methods, which have been around for ages and stuff. And what we don't have... is kind of blue sky thinking stuff. Josh, I'll hook you up on the rich people. Exactly. So what I need is a philanthropist that finds me entertaining enough to chuck me a few quid, and then I will make that happen.
Yeah, he made Josh Becker is one of my dissertation students. He's actually working on fatigue in pilot error.
Oh wow.
And so don't tempt him. He might change the culture if you can find some funding or a rich person, because he's looking for funding right now to finish up his PhD. So I'm going to give a shout out to Josh Becker. You can look him up on the internet. He's looking for some funding to finish his PhD, but you might be able to bring him over from the human factors type realm into safety culture if you find that.
I know. Yeah. I find myself hanging out with human factors people that help.
I feel like you bring your own audience with you.
I didn't know these guys were all going to show up. They bug me most of my normal. They're so cute. I know. I will be there when they're on your show as well, though.
Okay,
but yeah, no, this tunnel was an awesome idea of Boris Johnson, our Prime Minister, who clearly does not understand projects. In fact, we were going to build a bridge across the Thames that had a big garden on, and that didn't happen either. Not till we hadn't spent 60 million quid on it.
Unspent?
Oh no, we spent that. No, we spent that on doing nothing. It was great. Some consultants got it. You see, he could have given that to me. I'd be building cooperative projects everywhere.
Yeah, the thing over the Thames.
Yeah, it never works out, right? Never works out. So, Linda, I'm mindful that epistemology kind of disappeared. What I would like to kind of pull back on this is for people who are interested in these kind of philosophical different spaces. And remember, we need to be kind, so we need to judge by their own benchmarks. Because I spent a lot of my life writing papers and people have gone, you can't generalize this. And I go, I know.
Yeah.
I didn't say I could.
Did you read it?
Exactly. So whilst different approaches can perhaps limit, you haven't got a big enough sample to spread this. Yeah. This isn't a unilateral law. Well, who thought it would be, given that people are so different and weird?
Right.
Because if that's your starting point, you're gonna confuse me, I think. If you think we can have one rule that fits all the people in the world, I don't know what you're smoking, but
yeah, but I mean, I think people are lulled into thinking that's there's a silver bullet for everything, and there certainly is not a silver bullet for people, right? No, and everybody in my life, by the way, has a different take on everything, on their politics, on their relationships, on their job, on those things. And I kind of hear this from you. It's like, you know what? Listen, I've got my area and you've got your area, and we see things differently, but that's okay, right? As long as we don't hate on each other about, like it's all good debate and it's all, it's all, I still love you. I don't, I may not agree with you that zero harm is a thing. Yeah. But we can all have a beer together and still,
But the different perspectives, Linda, are actually super important. So I think so I've talked negatively about positivistic research, but it does have a place. Mm-hmm. And if it is done properly and rigorously, again, and the way I always see research is that we're adding different facets to the crystal. We're looking at it through all these different lenses, and we've still got loads to add. There is still lots of work to be done so that we are able to, and I have nothing but love for positivistic researchers. They tend to hate on me because I haven't done any statistics. Yeah. And I actually wrote a paper once called "Aren't You Going to Put Some Statistics in There?" and how to say no, because that was my life. For a good long while was, where's your questionnaire and where is your statistics? And I said, you know what, dude, I'm not doing any.
I feel like you can get like 1,000 dissertation students that would love to do dissertations without statistics.
But it's harder work. This is the illusion. See, my undergrads used to do this. They go, Fred, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do some interviews because I'm like, whoa. Yeah. Wait till you've done all your transcription, your coding and your narrative thematic analysis. And then we'll talk about whether you thought that was easier or not. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, we had something here.
I just want to throw that up there. I don't know what that was in relation to.
Is that environmental health and safety? Oh, adequately start. Okay, talking with workers. Yeah, I don't disagree with you there, O2. I think things are always understaffed, I fear. And yeah, in terms of, I'm assuming that's environment. I don't know what EHS is, I'm afraid.
Environmental health and safety.
Yes. Right. Okay. I thought it might. Yeah. What do we have? HSQE. Yeah. So actually, in terms, yes, it is nearly always understaffed. We don't have enough people. We don't have enough time. Something we do like to do that I think is really silly is what we do is lots of near miss reporting, good quality reporting. Yeah. And what you end up with is a list this long of spreadsheet shit you have to go through, which you don't need to.
Right.
I mean, that's not useful. The time that safety expert spends sitting trying to solve these kind of things when they should be out there actually doing safety. Totally. And that's just bad structure. And Philip's quite right. Workers are safety experts. They are the people that know. They're also quality experts.
Yeah.
They're also productivity experts. They're logistics experts. They're all the experts.
Professionals.
Totally. Right. And I get so pissed off when people suggest otherwise.
Yeah.
Absolutely does my head in.
I think we are twins. I have
Do you think, darling? I think we might be.
I think we might be like the U.S. You know, I think, is my mother older than your mother?
She is. I think we can just be sisters from another mister. We're fine.
Oh, so I'm British. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Awesome.
Mike's making a fair point. It's kind of easier, but not. Now, Mike, I might. So I have seen so much shit quantitative work. Totally. Because it is easier, but then it's just not done right.
Yeah.
And I've written an angry paper about that. That's in JCEM. You know that journal, right? Journal of Construction Engineering Management, the ASCE one.
Yeah.
It's called Bias, Everything is Bias. I wrote it with Rob Light, who's a friend of mine from Penn State. And basically, if anybody on the call, right, due to the fact that Linda and I got a bit distracted, and this wasn't that most epistemologically focused thing ever in the world.
But wasn't this wonderful?
It was fun, though. I can point you at that paper, Linda. So let's append that particular paper, which is all about epistemology, by the way. It explains ontology and epistemology for civil engineers in America. So I was taking on a challenge there, but we did it, Rob and I. So there is a paper about this. I'll email to you after so you can share it.
So I feel like I'm just going to go on Google Scholar or one of the more academic research engines, and I'm going to find all your papers. And this is the time to give a little shout out to something that my friend has started. It's what's sponsoring us today. It's called isitconstruction.com. And he started this as part of one of he does Is It Recordable, which in the US we're always trying to measure recordables. He does Is It Environmental? Is it compensable? And I twisted his arm and he started Is It Construction? And I'm going to start blogging on Is It Construction.
Cool.
And one of the things I'm going to do, I just came up with this now, is I'm going to take all of your papers and place them on isitconstruction.com so that people can see the things that you write about, because I think there are
some always a little bit
gems
random.
In there. A little bit what?
Random.
Random,
I said.
Oh, random. Oh, I love random.
They tend to be quite ranty and random. But yeah, Linda, you and I will check out my back catalogue. But I do have an epistemology paper. I was here for epistemological reasons. I think simply, this is a thing, you can go mad for this, and there's loads of big words, and you can get academics that will come and talk to you just using language you can't understand because it possibly makes them feel clever. And I've just bowled up and gone, people, right? Yeah. So but that's the important takeaway is, trust me, it's very important. The important takeaway is how epistemological positions around research allow us to actually produce something with more utility, validity, relevance. And within the safety space, we need it to work. We need it to matter. And so we need to think about these positions and what they enable us to work within what we know is reality, which is it's a big old mess. Yeah. People are messy. Trying to find this whole one rule for every, that is never going to happen. You couldn't even find a rule that fitted me and the consistency of a week, right?
Yeah.
So why do we expect this?
Yeah, exactly. It changes day by day. It changes minute by minute. It changes person by person. And so, flexible, agile, resilient. All those things have to be put into this space of it just depends.
Yeah, totally. I think
just depends.
Awesome. Yeah.
So exactly. Mic drop. Should I mic drop on that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think you should.
So, thank you, Fred, for coming on my show today. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me again, Linda.
But you're coming back.
Oh, yeah.
For the Zero Harm debate on March 3rd at 2 p.m. And and I wanted to mention to you, I don't know, you don't spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, but somebody posted your paper on Zero Harm, and I got right in there and I tagged you in it, and you probably never saw it. But I have been saying, come to this debate with Fred and Kieran. Karen, he's going to hate me already. Okay.
Yeah, probably. No, he won't. He's nice,
but the two of you are gonna be on this show, and you're gonna talk pro and con of this type of ideology. Okay. And so I'm looking forward to that. That's on March 3rd. And you have just invited yourself back at least monthly for the next year, because there are so many things that we have to talk about. Yeah. And hopefully you've excited some interest in culture.
I know, trust me.
And again, as soon as people say that to me, you're getting them. Okay? You're getting them. So thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
For everybody that's listening, mostly all of your colleagues.
Well, I've got a crew. What can I say?
This is awesome. Thank you so much. And to everybody that's listened to this and everybody that's going to listen to this in the coming days, thank you for listening to our ramblings. This has been a great discussion. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.